Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hello. We're back. We're doing the tips because we didn't do them last time.
I really love how Ben, at the start of many episodes, just has to remember how to speak English. Like, he'll just kind of bleh at the start of...
It's my warm-up, because you don't give me enough time to do warm-ups before we start.
You've had hours,
You're like,
Ben.
I gotta do this work, and you can just lie around and do nothing, and then I gotta do my warm-up, and then you don't give me time for my warm-up. So I'm doing it now. Oh! Anyway, we're doing the tips.
Very silly. Yeah, we thought we'd done the tips, but...
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe we were just so excited
We quickly checked over it just to make sure, and we're like, oh god, we haven't.
Don't tell them that. You ruin the illusion that we do stuff outside
It's
of these videos.
alright, I can always cut what I've just said.
We live in these videos, guys. Literally, we don't do anything outside of them. So
That's true.
any rumors you've heard about us having lives?
Yes,
or
any one of
playing
you
Doom
that have met us in person?
No. That was a stand-in. It's like Lemony Snicket.
Exactly.
Oh, I guess I should.
I guess you should.
Should we do the thing? Oh, do we have time? Is this going to pause on me?
I have no clue.
All right, let's do the thing anyway.
Besides, this seems serious.
Oh my god.
Also,
fine.
I don't...
You don't have him around? You don't have him ready?
I always have him ready. Here he is.
You know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's get him up.
It's the boy.
Here he is.
So one time I was in Cleveland. I was at a
Cleveland?
nightclub,
Cleveland?
and I was talking to these three girls, and like they didn't know who I was. It was just like
Girls.
That's a bit
Cleveland, Ohio.
Nice, right?
All right, you got it. You got
Yeah,
it.
I got it. I got him. Let's go, boy.
Okay,
Two carry boys.
take
Here
it
we go.
away.
July blank, 1982. Cleveland, Ohio Police Station. First Investigative Division, Chief Takasugi, blank, Prefecture Police Headquarters for the eradication of drug-related crime. Shishibone Branch Head, blank, blank. Regarding incident blank, designed as undercover investigation, blank.
I might regret this if it gets serious, but can we just say, for the sake of consistency, that that every blank is Cleveland, Ohio?
Yes,
Okay,
of course I
thank
can.
you.
Of course I can. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found that it is thought to be related to... What? Has been found that it is thought to be related to... Okay, sure. The undercover investigation of the incident in question. That wasn't, like, needlessly roundabout to you? Anyway.
I think it was very neededly roundabout.
Neededly roundabout. Okanami Police Station, Cleveland, Ohio. We know a village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of suspect, Cleveland, Ohio, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony related to the crime in question. And as part of it, we learned that the criminal had information only he could have known. Therefore, this record of testimony, duplicate attached, will be provided to you. If this testimony always be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect, Cleveland, Ohio, was the culprit behind the incident in question.
All right, I just want to slowly just pick over this page.
Do we have to?
So during the investigation of suspect, Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes, exactly.
So he was arrested.
CO for short.
So he was...
Culprit admitted.
No, it's Coco.
See?
They made an animated movie about him.
You know what? That makes sense to me. That's this guy. That's Coco from Coco the movie. Isn't Coco a late... You know what? I don't know who Coco is. I haven't watched the movie.
It's...
Is that the kid's name?
Anyway. So he was arrested for possession of illegal drugs and confessed to the crime.
Coco was arrested,
We knew that.
Okay, good.
What we didn't know was that he had information that only he could have known. Now, presumably,
what does that mean?
This was, something you could have extrapolated from the previous information we had anyway.
So you probably know it anyway, really.
Well, no. Like, to say that if he had confessed to the crimes and they'd actually taken him in on it, you would assume that he had some way to prove that it was him.
Maybe, yeah.
Right? The interesting thing is that now that we've been told about this, as I've said many times, it's one of those things you can pick at, but once we're told it explicitly, then it changes things.
Sure.
So clearly now when we are about to be told this information, we got some juicy details coming.
Here we go. Juicy details from Cleveland, Ohio. In addition, the head investigator on the case received this report and inquired as to the incident with the Okanami Police Station. But the responsible party at Okanami Station, who responded to the designated undercover investigation announced by the Prefectural Police General Director on July 1st, 1982, Osumi Fusakane, B112, misunderstood and did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator on the case properly.
So this entire first paragraph is one sentence.
Yeah, that's awful. I was about to die when I said Fusakune. Get out of life, Ryukishi. Because of this, the head The case's head investigator was not aware of the importance of testimony as it related to the case in question. Don't you dare click. And as a result, was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having left it in the dark until now. What do they leave in the dark?
Whoa.
This script. In addition, there is a postscript saying that a suspect, Cleveland, Ohio, died on confinement yesterday. On Cleveland, Ohio by Spork, I hear.
Yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio Spork said very deadly.
See, now I understand this is Ryukishi, so it's obviously meant to be spooktacular, but I do like that they gave us the sound effect as though we hadn't been told this on several occasions already.
He died by a spork coated in wasabi, and that's...
Oh, that was it?
Death. Yeah, that was it.
I thought they said they were going to tell us something.
No, they told us nothing.
They said that they'd attached something that had information on the things that only he could have known.
Stolen! Ryukishi, why?
What a tease.
What a tease. What a boy. That's alright. Let's do the next bit. Oh!
Sunday.
Are they gonna say something about...
Sunday.
It's okay. I'm waiting for a chapter to happen, and I don't think we're quite there yet. Alright, let's do it.
Ben, are you telling me that you know what's about to happen?
I do. I know a line that was way better in the old translation, and if you just want to say it for me, it'll be great.
Okay.
It's gonna be the best line that ever existed.
Well,
I can't wait for it.
MS Paint it over the top. Okay.
If you could do that, that'd be fantastic.
The fireworks I heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather.
This is a new track. I don't remember this one. Maybe we have heard it.
Let's set it up.
It was cloudy. The television forecast was calling for possible downpour starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. The festival had to open or it wouldn't begin.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard this one. Scary.
The Furude Shrine grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up all in the auspicious colors of red and white.
That's the color of bone and blood because it's about torture.
It's spooky and stuff.
The sound of electric motors at the stalls, the voices of kids running around. Their happy families watching them, smiling. Today was the festival of Watanagashi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Sadako? Had she forgotten her days of suffering just for a few moments while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long?
I wouldn't know.
It's been like 3 fucking days, Keiichi.
It's true.
So melodramatic.
I mean, that feels like a really long time to a kid, right? Like, whole school week. That's the worst. You know?
I don't know, maybe
like I got this classes today.
Maybe I'm just so old and jaded.
I mean, that's how I felt when I was back in high school, you know? Like, I got chemistry and math today. That's the worst, you know? Like one day of like, half-hour long tough classes, which is too much. Yeah, that's how I felt.
Must have been a really hard life for you, Ben.
It was the worst.
High school was such a difficult time for poor Ben.
Look, I miss university. That was a good time.
He hadn't even heard of Drew Carey until
I hadn't heard of Drew Carey.
So high school was just a waste of time.
I hadn't heard of Ryukishi until my last year of high school. So like, what was I even doing? You know?
That's so sad.
It's okay.
This would probably be the longest day of my life. Or the last. It'd be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived.
I'll be fine.
Not very long.
Nah.
I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening and lounged about during the early afternoon. We may have lived under the same roof, but they couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time.
Nah, I don't think he'll die in this chapter. Definitely not.
Keiichi isn't known for lounging around.
He's not known for lounging around or dying or murder. None of these things.
That's all we've seen him do.
I mean, you're not wrong. And be really perverted. Yeah.
Lounging around.
Yeah.
Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eye, I went to the front door. I tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal.
Oh.
As if to express the firmness of my resolve in those knots.
Like, is that supposed to be a dramatic lie? Like, I tied my shoelaces so I could. My feet started to hurt. They got all swollen, and I get on the blood circulation.
There's on the nose, and then there's just cutting the nose off.
That was great. Cutting the blood circulation, you know, by tying it too tight.
When I decided to murder Sadako's uncle, I was in such a state of excitement I almost went crazy. And when I was planning out the act of murder, which went directly against all the morals
this is great.
fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions.
Oh.
And then, yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made exactly the same phone call as me,
oh, shit.
I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then.
That's right, that did happen.
And now, entering today, right now I lacked all the emotions I'd possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it was the kind of feeling you might get right after you wake up when you're still half asleep and you don't feel anything very clearly.
That's me, like, every day, all day, so...
You just prepare for murder every day?
Every day,
just
I'm always ready.
I had no anger towards that man for the violence he'd committed against Sadako. Is that true? That sounds like a lie.
Nah, I think he's pretty calm.
Nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her.
What? That's not true at all. I mean, sad as shit.
Yeah, this is
lies.
I felt no discontent towards my friends who had just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards the day that had finally come. Yes, right now you could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out a murder.
Oh, God.
I love
so
it. He's
ready.
like, I'm not nervous. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. But I'm in the mood for murder.
I'm ready to kill. It's like preparing yourself to eat McDonald's, you know?
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. Could be a sponsor. Reach out to us, McDonald's. Thank you.
When it came down to it, I'd probably need to let my violent emotions take control.
Okay.
But right up until that moment, I would be like an insect. I would
What? Oh, insects.
That's the motif.
Oh, it's happening like a cicada.
I would slowly, surely, and silently move toward my one objective, and then when I had my prey, I'd attack like a bullet.
Like a bullet? Okay, sure.
Yeah, you know.
Who's holding the gun?
Now that's an interesting metaphor that I can actually kind of almost take on ironically.
That's good. I like it. I like it.
There was no emotion in that. Just the creeping mindset insects possessed. That sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I'd kill Sadako's uncle like he was a worm.
Who is the gun? Anyway, continue.
I had to laugh at thinking that way, thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time and walked out the door.
So I really could cut off the circulation, not feel anything in my feet, you know? Real bright and purple.
He gets home, takes his shoes off, and they're just like black.
Yeah. A job well done.
They fall off.
I brought the shovel out of the front storm. I would need it to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it so and split it into three, I could easily hide it in my bag. I twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I'd done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous.
Wasn't at all.
Yeah.
My weak-willed self deep within me was hesitant.
Isn't that nervousness?
I knew that the act of dismantling this shovel was the first step I'd take to becoming a murderer.
Aside from the planning and everything else.
The last twist was conspicuously difficult, but it finally submitted before the strength of my determination.
I wonder if anyone reads this chat was like bored by this, but honestly, this is just too entertaining.
Like, the thing is,
it's dumb, right?
It's very dumb. It's clearly meant to be like this tense emotional build-up.
What's the thing?
But I can't take it seriously.
This is supposed to be played straight, right? Like, we actually must have written this with like, yes, these are all the awful feelings he's feeling, but yeah, it's like Star Trek. It's like the original series of Star Trek where it's like, how can I even deal with this? You know? Basically. You don't disagree?
And I'm out. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Keiichi.
Of course he would end the ship
Its
after himself.
continuing mission to end new life and boldly go where no murderer has gone before.
There you go. That's it. Protect Sadako.
The area around Sadako's house was outside my circle of activity.
Oh, good.
But even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route to my destination carefully. I didn't mind going the long way around. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful after all.
Whatever you say,
Still,
Keiichi.
I was fortunate enough to not run across anybody on my way to the planned site of the crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. The place I would dig the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it into the same place as before since there were no signs to guide me, but I arrived there smoothly and as expected.
I could tell it was the same place by the sign that I had left there. Right.
There's just another body there, and he's like,
Shit!
Someone got here before me.
Was this me? Did someone else do this?
Someone's parked here already. I'll have to tell them to move.
They've taken up 2 whole parking spaces, what an
2
asshole!
whole corpse parking spaces, yeah, out in the woods.
I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag and began skillfully putting it together. Then I stuck the tip of the shovel into a soft-looking patch of ground and pushed on it with my foot. The shovel would split into the earth if I put some strength into that foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel, but it made me gulp hard. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Let's do a countdown.
Ooh.
Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2... I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it being sticking the shovel into the ground. I had to count down 5 or 6 times. Damn it, I'm just digging a hole. This is pathetic. As I thought that, I put strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant, and split came the sharp noise.
It's like laying flowers.
It was only soft at the beginning. Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it would be enough to cover him up with some dirt. Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down it with my teeth and dug even harder. I've dug enough now. I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, grow disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging.
See, this is one thing that I'm glad they've addressed. I feel like every goddamn show where someone ends up buried in the ground, they're like just below the surface.
Right.
In a real shallow grave.
Right.
It's like, come on, you gotta get a few solid feet down.
It's true, if you're gonna be professional about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that way someone, like, they stick the shovel in, they dig it up, and they're like, oh, no corpse in the first 3
That's
inches.
funny. I'll give up now. I'll move somewhere else. There's a lot of ground to cover.
This is how you don't let there be a beginning to the story.
It's absolutely true.
I'm an expert.
You are. I know. You're an expert on murder, like myself.
The thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into drops and fell to the ground. My back was in even worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The white and black striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down.
It's like an odd detail, but it's kind of gross.
It is.
Like the white and black striped mosquitoes. Like you're not wrong, but yeah, I don't think I've ever heard someone describe mosquitoes like quite like that. Usually it's the buzzing. That's like the detail that they talk
He's
about.
really throwing a lot of color into this chapter,
No,
like more
it's
than
good.
normal.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm a big fan of color.
It was hot. It was disgusting.
Ugh.
I was sticky.
Ugh.
I was itchy.
Oh, that's not fun.
Should have brought some insect repellent.
I should have.
All those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves.
You reckon they had insect repellent in the 80s? That's a really dumb question. They had to have, right? Citronella
really
is...
I think it was invented in like the 1900s.
Citronella is not like some revolutionary early 2000s technology, right?
I don't think so. I don't actually know. It's funny. I have no clue. Are you looking it up?
Damn it all. So what, are you telling me to pack up and go home? Is that it?
Is he just speaking to the ground?
Yes, he must be.
I hadn't yelled at anyone. It was me talking to myself, me telling myself something.
He does have 2 internal monologues.
Hey!
Why was I feeling this way and digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be in not digging this hole at all? Wait, in the first place, who ordered me to dig? When I thought it over, maybe ever since grade school or even before that, my whole life had only been me doing what other people told me to. I didn't mean it was somehow constrained, living a life just based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, it was like a road.
Keiichi's really just a writer at heart.
He is. He's an artiste, like his father.
I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and if all my classmates and I got in a line, I'd usually be on the shorter end.
You just get really Australian for a second, though.
I did. It
that
did
was
happen.
great.
Thank you.
Australian Keiichi is best Keiichi.
My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were in the very picture of average. And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have a passionate rock, paper, scissors contest to see which would get me. See, on the one hand, it's like, I understand that this is him just being depressed. But on the other hand, it's like... it's like, is this him trying to be relatable?
I don't know, I guess
I'm
so.
just so ordinary.
He's trying to like
Nothing
relate to the
interesting
kids.
is happening in my life.
I bet you're wondering how I got here.
Right?
The most interesting thing I've ever done is rock, paper, scissors to be on a dodgeball team.
It was so intense, you guys.
It wasn't intense, Ben. It was ordinary. Just like me.
Intensely ordinary, just like me. Bye-bye, Keiichi.
And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have a passionate rock, paper, scissors contest to see which would get me. During those kindergarten and grade school years, it felt like someone was only worth how fast they grew and how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it's really uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother.
Keiichi, would you like to go to a cram school? You'll better grasp what you're learning in school. It will be much more fun.
Is that true?
Oh shit, we're talking about cram school!
Oh, no.
Flashback into Keiichi's past.
The very first test I took at a cram school was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like the tests with the same exact problem a dozen times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with manga magazines. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun.
Is that how cram school be?
Apparently.
Several days later, I went to the cram school again with my mother and the enrollment paperwork. Mom and the person at the cram school had a really long, heated discussion, so I accidentally dozed off and missed most of what they said. But I clearly remember one point. My mom had made a loud groan, surprised at something. What was it?
By 6-1, do you mean his average score was 61 points? Or be this nerd? This teacher nerd?
Yes.
Go for it.
Not at all, Miss Mayabara. The mean deviation of our cram schools across all the country is 61. He's showing rare numbers, even if this was just a simplified intelligence examination. First, I'd like to say the Keiichi Mayabara-kun is extremely bright.
Keiichi, but he doesn't have very good grades at school. He has average marks on his report card, B's, C's, D's. Is there some kind of mistake?
Well, we gave him the Kraplin test as well, and we learned some very interesting things as a result.
The what test?
The Kraplin is extremely weak when faced with questions that don't have any meaning. He just has no interest in simple, dull questions that don't have to do with everyday life.
So, even if he doesn't know what 2 plus 3 is, if you told him he had 2 apples and got 3 more, he would understand that sort of question.
That's right. For example, instead of telling him to draw a flattened foldable cube, what if we asked him what a die would look like when cut open? If we did that, he can answer beautifully. Then the person from the cram school showed her a page from one of the exams I took. It was a paper with questions about construction. Construction questions were unusual, so they were really cool, weren't they? In this question, it asks to draw an unfolded regular icosahedron, a shape with 20 faces. When we rephrased it and asked him how you would cut out a piece of cardboard to create a 20-sided die, Keiichi couldn't drew the answer as though it were easy. This is not something an average child can do.
Keiichi, have you ever made a die with 20 sides from a magazine extra or anything?
Yeah, Mom, I love playing Dungeons and Dragons with my cool
lovely!
friends.
I hear that's where Satan comes from.
Dice only went from 1 to 6. I'd never even considered before this test that there were dice more than 6 sides. But then my dungeon master...
Oh no.
I just really want to get a 20 so I can kill the dragon with my sword.
So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have.
What a nerd.
If I had a die...
What a nerd.
Says us D&D.
We're all
hardcore.
nerds. We're a group of nerds. Look, I'd play D&D with Keiichi. He'd be great.
Oh, that's
He'd be like probably the paladin, and he'd just die constantly.
Oh,
It'd be
you're
great.
right.
We'd be like, here's the dragon to fight.
But he's
you're
like-
actually, but in your notes, you're like, this is when the party runs away from the dragon. You're like, and then I take my wasabi-covered sword and I strike the dragon in the heart.
He's like the paladin with the dark secret past.
Yes, obviously, obviously.
If I had a die like that, I could win at dice games against anyone.
What?
What?
So I immediately wanted to make it.
That's how
I
probability
guess
works.
20 is a bigger number.
It's true. It's true.
Finally, I entered cram school.
Hey, yes, cram school. That's definitely.
There were
what
only
this is.
4 students in the class they put me in, which was called Select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in the lower classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness well up within me for the first time.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't as good as them physically, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised. My teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied too, and then I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. Heh.
What was that? I didn't quite hear you.
That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation. Because, well, my studious lifestyle didn't end up lasting very long. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends, my classes were behind what I was learning in cram school, and I eventually stopped respecting the teachers given that they could put me to sleep with their lectures. And well, I was a disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew. And the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in that state of ecstasy forever.
Not the ways of the world. Oh no.
Being an arrogant douchebag. A state of
This
ecstasy.
is great.
I'd do as I was told, and then I'd go above and beyond their expectations, and they'd praise me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like the wheels on a bike. I thought moving forward like that was how life worked, like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamizawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened, and we started saying how moving and getting a change in atmosphere would be nice. And then my father, he had a place that he liked, that he'd gone a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his atelier?
Apparently.
I've never seen that word before.
I never either. What is that?
Tell us in the comments.
Yeah, you tell us.
I'll probably have Googled it by this point, and I'll see the comments and I'll be like, why are they telling me this?
I already know this. I'm such a smarty pants.
But thank you for contributing to the comments. With
Thank you, seriously.
With me in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamizawa. And after that, I met them, didn't I?
Yeah.
The first day after transferring here, I went to the classroom with the teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me in there, so I placed my hand on the door before she could, slammed it open, and set foot into the room.
Such bravado.
Oh.
Clatter!
The thrilling, powerful way I opened that door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life over again. And then within seconds, that hard determination took a counter to the face. A blackboard eraser fell on me, plus there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up.
I love that this otherwise would have just been left for the teacher.
If he hadn't come in first. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Sadako was already beating me right from the first day I transferred. That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in the class were all in different grades and were different genders. It was because the room felt completely different from schools I knew. As I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. The fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I've never had a single boring day since coming here.
What just happened?
It was a flash of lightning. Like inspiration.
The days were lively, spent with the other club members. We played Old Maid with cards and scratches on the back to cheat. We all let our passions go wild during our games. We went all out as regular participants in tournaments at the toy store in town and many, many more things. Recently during those times there was the banter competition. It was that's when I saw an unexpected side to Sadako. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. It was such a sweet, gentle time spent, and it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Sadako was pretending to be stubborn and firm, and how brave she was, part of her heart always waiting for her Nini to come home. And I vowed to become her Nini. Sadako may have been nagging and overtly critical, but she knew how to take care of someone. But though it might have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending on another person. Even if Satoshi and Sadako's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. When did those sunny days all go wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times, but I did anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your path to take back that life? Nobody ordered you to do this. You decided it on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. You thought it all through yourself. You'll carve it out yourself, and you'll do it now. This wasn't a path I could see very far down, not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow path, dark and utterly distressing, one for which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. But that disheartening path would keep on going forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel, the kind of path only available to those able to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your very own path to walk. And I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieved my goal, I would go back to that bright road, and then I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. That doesn't. Yeah. That's not going to go well for him.
Crush!
What's being crushed? It's not my head.
It could be, though.
It could be my head, but it's not.
When I next realized it, the hole had grown so deep I couldn't believe it. Did I dig all this myself?
It's like fucking 20 feet deep and he's stuck at the bottom. He's like, shit!
How do I get out? Dig up, stupid.
I think digging this much is enough, right? I put my shovel into the bottom of the hole. I dragged the body here, throw it in the hole, and cover it up with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top, it would all go much more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. It was almost evening and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging a hole this deep must have taken quite a lot of time. I took a seat on a slanted rock nearby and wiped the sweat from my brow. Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I'd hidden in the schoolyard, and I'd make the call to lure him out. And then, I'd do it. The number of things I needed to reach that moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still felt a contradiction. Every step in this process I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself lose my nerve. Having to endure those million temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribably slow and painful torture. I had thought myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. This was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today.
Pause. Pause for reflection. You're wrong.
Oh.
I would pass through this strange day and go back to the world I was in before.
Yeah.
If I fell to the level of a psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. So this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill, because I was human. It was so funny to me that I'd be the bearer of Oyashirosa's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly and stood. I concealed my presence and sharpened my senses in all directions to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time. I'd walk my own path. A path no one had forced me to walk. Let's do this, Keiichi Maebara. The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot, and the chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know I'd be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had.
He's just completely reinterpreting them yet again, and I love it.
It's great.
It's like a motif or something.
What?
The sky was far above. The ground was far below.
What?
What?
What's that a reference to?
I don't know.
You do. You butt.
In not even an hour, the veil of night would draw near and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time, the Higurashi would let me hear their chorus in the place of the cicadas. Ben, aren't they the same thing?
I mean, yeah. Maybe. Don't worry about it.
Now, the thing is I point that out not because I'm unaware that they're the same thing, but because I wonder if it's a translation thing, like there are two different words and one of them means something different.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they wanted to differentiate that in a very subtle way, like in the Japanese, like a very poetic way of saying things.
Yeah,
It
like
might be one of those.
if one was like katakana and the other was the other one, whatever the fuck it's called.
Hiragana, maybe.
That maybe.
Maybe katakana and hiragana. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows?
Either way.
I don't feel like that would be it because they'd probably do it in a different way with like, I don't know, capital letters or in bold text or something. But that'd be crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look in the translation notes on that one.
Tell us in the comments.
Tell us.
When that happened, would everything be over with... Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Sadako's fate up to a public agency, but this time was different. I would do it. I would carry it out.
Oh, would you now?
I would end it.
Oh!
It would all be over very soon. Everything would end.
That was a cool effect.
Yes. When the Higurashi cried.
Shit.
I've clicked.
And then it's gonna just
It's
fade out. Oh,
slowly-
it's changing color. Oh, Ryukishi's learning how to use the engine. Look at him go.
Boy.
That's great.
Oh, what the heck?
That's the end of the chapter. All right, I think it's the next chapter is the weird shit. I did want to before we continue on, I want to make a little comment
Go for it.
on Keiichi's like flashback and junk, because like I feel that how he says, you know, I used to be in a cram school and it was like really cool, like getting my grades up, and that was all I really cared about. I was like pushing a bike up a hill, and that was what life was. And then I came to Hinamizawa and I found all these friends and junk. I myself have gone through a kind of similar thing. I won't get into it too much, might do it more in the post recap, but like going from caring about like school and grades and parental approval to like, yo, let me form some real relationships with people that I care about in real life. And I think that it's one of the things that I really relate to this story about, relate to Keiichi about, because that's why he like wants to kill Teppei, because he wants to preserve that. He's had this really like radical change in his life and he wants to keep that, you know?
Yeah.
He's like, his eyes have been open. He's realized how important it is to like connect to people and hang out with them and shit. And so he's willing to commit murder to like preserve that feeling. And I think that's really cool, because another big part of obviously Ryukishi's writing is that not only can kids like kill, you know, kids are powerful. They're more powerful than we, you know, let them be a lot of the time. Murder is a thing that, you know, anyone might be pushed to for like real reasons. Like Keiichi isn't, you know, I'm gonna get $1 million if I kill Teppei. He's like doing it for a very real and human reason that I think is very sympathetic. I don't know, maybe you disagree with me, but that's kind of how I feel.
It's one of those interesting challenges in terms of like trying to relate to a character, in that unlike you, I can't really say I've ever had a similar situation for me.
You never had like a big change in your life where you're like, this is kind of awful, but then, oh, I figured it out. I figured out what I want in life. that sort of deal. Because that's kind of... well, you never had something like that? You never had like an epiphany moment?
Not on this kind of, ballpark.
Okay, maybe not.
But
sad.
Like, that's less what I'm talking about, and more that, like, I've never been in a situation that felt so encroaching that I felt I had no way out of it. Which I feel is very much...
Oh, right. You're talking about the other half of the equation.
Which I feel is, like, what has pushed Keiichi over the edge in this regard.
Sure.
And that's, like... It's so strange because, all of the emotions that Keiichi is showing, as you say, are very simple, relatable concepts that, most people would have to deal with.
He's supposed to be friends with people. That's all he wants.
And it's just so peculiar to see it, like, driven so over the edge. And we've definitely brought this up a few times before. Like, for example, one thing here where he's talking about cram school, and he's like, oh, those times ended. My father wanted to move away to a nice place. But we've clearly established several times in the story that his dad still has to do most of his work out of Tokyo and stuff, which, like, I guess if you're delusionally rich and you're just like, well, just fuck it, I'll have a house out in the country and spend a bajillion dollars on transport every year.
Sure.
Then that's one thing, but I feel like, given the context of this story, other than just, like, isolating the story to, this is the time Keiichi spent in Hinamizawa.
Sure.
It's going to be something along the lines of, like, part of why they moved here is also going to be part of a motivation for this story.
Maybe, dude, who knows?
So, like, he's like, those fun times ended. I'm expecting that the reason those fun times ended is going to be why we're kind of in this situation, if that makes sense.
Maybe, dude, who knows?
It's always really fun to poke at. Like,
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I find the story relatable in a lot of ways. Not necessarily on the same, like, blow for blow level that it seems like you're describing.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean... Higurashi was the light changing point for me. Higurashi was the let's move from cram school to the country and meet a bunch of cool friends and have a good time. This story is like what opened my eyes to the joys of like talking to people, which is such a silly thing because I'm a really social person now, but like back in the day it was like, well, those things don't matter as long as I like get good grades and my parents are happy. Anyway. Maybe we'll talk about it a bit more in the recap. I'll get some notes together. But I like what you're pulling. I like what you're putting down. I'm excited to see how that goes once we get to the answer arcs. Maybe we'll find out something more about it.
Also, I may have mentioned this before, but part of me is paranoid because we keep referring him to as Sadako's uncle, but have we actually heard Teppei's name?
They've mentioned him in the reports. They've been like, this is Teppei guy.
Is it? Have they?
Yeah, they've mentioned Teppei by name. But I think that whenever Keiichi is talking about it, they say...
Yeah, so Keiichi doesn't know him. That's why we keep getting it as Sadako's uncle.
I think that's correct. I could be wrong, but I don't think
it'll be really funny
matters.
if in editing we just
it's
go
like
back
two
and
separate
it's
people,
not at all.
and I've been just giving you the answers the whole time. You know what? Who cares? That's what the people are here for. They're for me giving you the answers without even realizing it. So, it's all good. All right. Well, anyway.
Next time.